All right, welcome back. So today, the concept of today, it's November 19th, and we are just finishing up sound decision where a ball is bouncing around the screen. So we had this idea that we would upgrade sound decision to be a game of Pong, or a type of game of Pong, where you can take a soccer game, a volleyball game, a football game, and you've got two players on the east and west edge of the field, and a ball will bounce off the north and south borders, and then they will basically play the game of Pong. So if you're not familiar with the game of Pong, you need to do a usability study on that. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and modify a game to be the game of Pong. So this was my sound decision where it's bouncing off the edges. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and add some players. So I've got image Roger Federer, and I'm going to upload an image of Roger Federer, and I have these somewhere. So I've uploaded an image of Roger. Now I'm going to put in another image sprite, and you have to have an image sprite here, folks. A lot of people are putting images in. They're like, Mr. Richter, my image won't go into my canvas. I'm like, well, that's because you're trying to put an image in, not an image sprite. So this is, let's go ahead and rename this. I'll call this IMG Sprite Opponent. And I already have an opponent in there. So let's go ahead and add a picture to this opponent. And there he is. And there's my opponent. And I want to set its X coordinate to be like 150. And there he's back on the screen. And I can see that he is not having a clear background, so that's a problem. All right, so I will be back. I have to do some work here. Okay, so I'm back. So I've got rid of this guy's background, and now he's transparent. Now I go back here, and I'm going to upload a file, and I need to choose one that's a PNG. Here it is. Hit OK. Wait for it. And there he is. So let's go ahead and reduce Roger a little bit. He's a little big. 60 by 60. Get your images the same size. And there we go. So there's Roger on the baseline. And here's his opponent on his baseline. And here's the ball. Let's go ahead and reduce this ball a little bit. 20 by 20. Okay, so there's your tennis ball. And now we're going to get this to go back and forth and bounce off the screen. So when I go into my blocks, I need a clock. I have one. I have my timer. So what we want to do now is that I'm going to, first of all, I don't want to bounce on every single edge. Okay. So now the ball is going to bounce off of edges. Now, if you understand your screen, the east and west edge is a 3 and -3. You do not want it to bounce off these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this here, and I'm going to write a procedure. And this is how you write a procedure. Okay, you just drag in a to-do procedure to do. Okay, so let's say I'll write two procedures here. I'll say the score for opponent. Okay, so I write that. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'll say this is score for player. Okay. Now, once I've created these procedures, you go back here, and now you can drag these procedures out. And now the call for the procedure will be in there. So you have to think about your screen. Let's go back here and think about your screen for a second. So Roger is on the left-hand side. And this is a -3 over here, and this is a 3 over here. So when the ball hits a 3, Roger Federer will get a score. Okay? When the ball hits a -3, then this gentleman right here in the purple and white, he will score. We'll call him opponent. Okay? And if you want to make this simpler, you know, maybe I should do this like Federer scores. Okay, so let me change this and score for Federer. I'll just say Federer. Okay, so now this will change. So when I hit a 3, the 3 is on the right-hand side. So this is a score for Federer. And when I go down to -3, then this is a score for the opponent. Okay, and that will start to calculate that. So now you come up here and you want to write these procedures of what it is. Okay, so I can delete this. So you don't want to bounce every single time. Where do you want to bounce? Do I want to bounce when I hit 4? Yes, that's a corner. Do I want to bounce when I hit -1? Yes, that's the bottom edge. Do I want to bounce when I hit -2? Yes. I'm basically going to bounce off everything except -3. Okay? So there, I'm good. I'm bouncing off everything except the -3 and 3. So now what I want to do is go ahead here, and I want to create some variables. So I'm going to create a couple of variables here, and I'm going to call Federer score. So I'm going to create a variable that keeps track of Federer's score, and you're going to set it to 0 because it's a score, it's a number. And then I'm going to create another variable called opponent score. And set that to 0. And then what else do we need? We have a score for opponents, and you might want to keep track of like how many hits have been hit. And then what we could do is we could change the ball speed when there's so many hits. So if they go into like a 5-ball rally, after you get to the 5th hit, make the ball go faster. That's what happens in Pong. If you get to 10-ball rally, then make the speed go faster. So what I'm going to do here is call this number of hits. So number of hits, and I'll set that to 0. And I'm going to duplicate this, and I'll say this is ball speed. Okay. Don't know what happened there. Ball underscore speed. You're not allowed spaces, but you are allowed underscores. Okay, so now if I want to calculate opponent's score, I can do that. So I just go and go to variables, and I want to say, okay, I want to set my opponent's score. And it's going to be some math here where you're just adding to it. And I'm going to say this is going to be the get opponent score. Let me reduce this just a little bit. And this will be a number here. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. And I'm going to say 1. And then down here, I'll just say, okay, Federer's score is going to be Federer's score plus Federer's score plus 1. Okay, so now I'm done. I just wrote a procedure to calculate the number of hits. Or I'm sorry, calculate score. So now if they hit an edge, it would go ahead and calculate score. Okay? Okay, so we're back here, and I'm trying to think so now I'm handling if the ball hits the edge. So that's an event handler there. So when the ball hits the right-hand side or the left-hand side, it should calculate the score. So the next thing we want to do here is we want to have an event handler so that one of the opponents is being controlled by the computer, which is really just going to be the clock. So what you're going to do here is you're going to add in a clock, and you're going to say when the clock fires. So in game programming, you always want to adjust the time interval to a very fast speed. So I'm going to go to math here, and I'm going to set this speed of a clock to be like 10 milliseconds. So every 10 milliseconds. So, you know, there's 110 milliseconds in a second because there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second. So this is going to happen 100 times in a second. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to update not AJ Hawk's, but the sprite opponent's XY coordinate, because he'll be going up and down. So I want to set his Y coordinate to be the coordinate of the ball. So you're going to go to your ball, you're going to find its Y coordinate, and you're going to set them. Now, we'll come back to this later. We probably need to do some artificial intelligence in here where we can adjust this so where the ball's not, or this opponent is not so perfect. Because if we set it like this and we leave it like this, the ball would never, ever get past the player. You guys with me on that? The ball would meet the image opponent every single time, and they would never miss, and that would get kind of old because you could never score on them. So we're going to have to really, what we need to do is set in a player speed. So we can set in a player speed in here. Okay, so let's go to image opponent sprite, and let's set its speed. And let's give it some random number. So I'm going to go into your numbers, your math, and I'm going to get a random number. And I'm going to set that number between like 1 and 10. So it's going to constantly be changing between 1 and 10. Okay? So now when I run this game, the opponent should be going up and down with the clock. Okay? Now the next thing I want to do is I want to handle where Roger Federer can be controlled by a drag, your finger. So when we create a drag, I want to control my Roger Federer sprite. So I'm going to set its Y to the current Y of the drag, and that's it. And that's really how you control Roger Federer with your finger. And now Roger, wherever you slide your finger, Roger Federer will move to. Okay? Okay, so one thing I noticed here about playing the game is that I don't have a label on here. So I'm going to go back to my GUI, and I'm probably going to have to convert this from a horizontal layout to a vertical layout. So, because I want to have the score over top of the game board. Are you with me on that? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my layouts. I'm going to put in a vertical this time. And this is going to be fill parent. Thank you. This is going to be fill parent. And this is going to be fill parent. And the background is going to be none. And I'm going to go ahead and drag a label in here. And I'm going to go ahead and center that vertical arrangement so that is in the middle of the screen. And I want that label to be renamed LBL score. And I want its text to be like 0 space colon space 0. Okay, and then that will show both sides of the score, the right and left hand side. So I can enlarge this to 24. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my canvas and I'm going to drag it up here. Okay, now it's inside the vertical arrangement, and that's pretty good. That's really how I want it. I don't know, maybe we ought to give a vertical arrangement a background color. I don't know. Green looks kind of gray. That's not very bright. How about nice blue? There you go. And now we can, soft blue, there you go, that's nice. And then we'll go to your label, and I can select a text color to be white or something. Text color, white. Okay. And I don't like the blue. All right, so here's our game. And now what I need to do is go back to my blocks. And when they score, I need to go ahead and set my text of my label to what the score is. So when they score, and I'm going to go ahead and join some text together. I'll show you how to do a join button here. They're really pretty simple. They're not as hard as you think they are. Nothing in computer science is as hard as you think it is. So here I'm going to say score, colon, and then I'm going to join some text together. I'll probably put like 5 things in here. So then I'll go ahead and just duplicate this all the way down. And then here I can say, I don't want this score in here. And here I want it to be the opponent's score. So I'm going to go ahead and get a variable, and I'm going to say go ahead and get, let's see, the left-hand side is going to be Roger Federer's score. Copy, paste that. And the right-hand side is going to be the opponent's score. And in between here, I should have a big colon, space, colon, space. And don't know what I have here and why I have that here. So I'm just going to drag that out. I don't need that. So if you don't want that there, you can take the string out. You're good. All right, so now I'm going to copy this, and I just want to duplicate that. So now when I run this game, it should show the score inside the label. Okay, and it should say score, colon, 0, colon, 0. And if you don't want the score in there, then you don't have to put it. You could, we could get rid of this text up here. All right, so now we're keeping score, and I can run that. All right, so now I'm back. So now I just kind of did a usability study on my app, and the ball is hitting the east and west edge, which is a 3 and a -3, and it's not bouncing. So the ball is traveling up or down the side, and every time it's hitting the edge, it considers that a hit and still remained a hit. So when the ball hits that west edge, it travels downward, and you get like 20 points for that. You don't want to do that. So what I want to do now is when you handle a score, you want to change the ball location back to where it hit. So let's go in here to -3, and then when I hit -3, I want to go ahead and add the score, but then I want to change the ball position. So I'm going to go back and change its XY coordinates. So I'm going to say move to, so I'll go in here and say move to X and Y coordinates. So I can just copy this. What just happened? I have no idea. I don't know what just happened. Okay, so now what we want to do is when the ball hits this 3 and -3 edge, you want to set its ball to the middle of the screen. So I'm going to go back to my designer, and there's Roger. I don't want to move Roger. I want to move the ball. Let's go to image ball. Okay, and I want to set this image ball back to the center of the screen. So I want it to go like right there. So you go down here and you find out its x coordinates 218.53. So then you go back to your blocks and you're going to copy this number and you're going to say I want it to go to 218.53. Okay, and then you're going to duplicate this and drag this up to the 3 also. Okay, so now the ball was going to go back to the middle of the screen. I'm going to test that and I'll be back. Okay, now I found out that the ball will continue on its same direction. So what we want to do in here also is change the ball's direction when it hits. So it's going to hit 3 and it should start heading back towards -3. So what we want to do now is go into our ball and we want to go down and set its direction, which is also its heading. And I want to set its heading to -3. And here you want to set its direction to -3. And let's go down to -3 and do the same thing. So the ball is going to set its heading to the opposite direction, 3. Okay. Okay, so I have a small glitch, and I don't know why I do. Appears that it's not changing the direction when it hits 3. And if I do 0 minus 3, that should be -3, and that should be heading towards -3. So I've got to figure that out. I'll do some research on that and figure that out. Next thing I want to do is handle when the ball collides with the sprite. So I'm going to go to image ball, and I want to collide with other sprite. And now I'm going to go ahead and do a control statement and say if logic, if the other sprite is equal to Roger Federer, then what I want to do here, I want the ball to travel the other way. So I'll go do another else if here, and I'll copy this. And if it's the opponent, okay? So then what we want to do here is really a similar event that I did here with the heading. I want the ball to head in another direction. I want it to bounce off my sprite and head the other way. So that would be it. And it's not liking that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I went up here and created a global variable called edge number. And I went ahead and when I hit an edge, I want to go ahead and set that edge to this edge number. And then what allows me then is you're going to see that this block of code ends here. Well, if I make a global variable, I can use it anywhere in my program. So now I can just say, okay, this is the edge number. Okay, and now that should work. So now when the ball collides with Roger Federer, it's supposed to change directions. Let's go see if that. So I understand what's going on here. My opponent is not being able to collide with the ball. The reason why is the ball is not hitting it in the center of the sprite, which I believe is what they would do for collision detection. That's what they do in most cases. So what I need to do now is go ahead and set this, and I want his, I'm going to probably have to do some math. I want to subtract, I want it to be the ball, and I want him to be higher than the ball, so I'm going to have to subtract his, let's do, set his image right opponent to its y minus, and then let's do some more math here and divide by duplicating this. 1/2 divided by 2. So let me think about that, if that's correct. Okay, so I've had to go back in here and do some research on this, and this is a good thing to do every now and then. If you're not sure on how something's not acting right, you go into the question mark and you go into more information and you read about it. I had to sit here and read about, oh, okay, look at this. Heading is in degrees, 180 degrees. 0 is to the right, 90 is to the north, 180 is to the left, 270 is down. So that's where your heading comes in. So I was doing the math wrong on all this heading direction. So let me go back to my MIT App Inventor, and so let me go back into my blocks now, and then this should make sense. So if the image sprite hits the opponent and the opponent's on the right side, it should be going to 180. If it hits Roger, it should be going to 0. Okay, so now let's go see if this works. Yes, he hit Roger, and that works. If the ball hits, very good. So now we could start, you know, if we could get creative with this, we could start doing some math and figuring this out. But that's working now, and that's the game of Pong. So that's about it right there. If you follow these blocks of code, that should get you to the game of Pong, and you're good. So I hope this helps. Please subscribe, and please email me if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.